But that's also part of financial education. It's teaching our kids to surround themselves with others who are building something, who are bettering themselves, because we can learn from those people. And when those people get better and they get in better positions, you have contacts, you have networks, right? So it's easier to build yourself up. Even if you lose it all as a family, if you have that knowledge, you will know how to make that money.
Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast, where I have the awesome opportunity to interview and actually have a great conversation with Maya Corbic. She has been doing this for so long, I will say more than 11 years, teaching kids to be awesome investors, but also helping you as a parent to be an awesome parent in teaching your kids about investing and actually taking their money from the piggy bank into the stock market. So I don't want to hold you up any longer from meeting this wonderful lady who has been a force inside this financial space. How are you doing today, Maya?
Oh, I'm doing so well. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really, really appreciate that.
You're most welcome. I know a little bit about your history, about like how you came into the United States with just $50, you and your family, and doing that grind and not having not much to your name, to now you almost feel like you're too privileged, where it's like it's so much and your kids kind of like, hey, can we spend money and so forth. Can you take us back to what it is, like what is your why and why do you do this?
I think my why is because I firmly believe that we can all be wealthy as long as we're educated properly. And that education, it can happen at any time in our life. It doesn't have to, there's no specific time, but it is better if it happens when we're younger. If we can educate our kids about money and not make money taboo, make money open topic, we can talk about it. And if we can educate our kids how to have proper money habits from a really young age, hopefully they can grow up to become adults that are very good money managers. They say that 95% of what we do out of habits. So, I think it's important to install these good money habits in our children when they're early so that they can apply them as they get older.
Right. And because one of the things that's on your website, you have here, it takes one person to change the generational wealth trajectory of the family. Let that person be you. Can you explain, like, what do you mean by that?
Yes. So, all these wealthy people that we know, from 1920s, like Rockefellers, and even like now, you've got Jeff Bezos and, you've got Elon Musk, whether you like them or not, that aside. But it always takes that one person that worked hard and changed the generational wealth trajectory of their family. And it's not just about working hard. It's about, yes, you have to work hard, obviously, to create that wealth. But in order for that wealth to last, you have to teach younger generations how to preserve that wealth. So it's not just about passing on that money to them. It's also teaching them how to manage it properly. I think actually teaching them and educating them is probably more important than passing on that wealth to them. So, it's about, teaching them what to do when the money comes in, how to save it, how to invest it, how to budget it. And sometimes people are surprised when I tell them that, wealthy people, they actually, not all, but many of them take the time to educate younger generations. So, John Rockefeller actually, or all the Rockefellers, they have, their, I guess, process that they go through to teach their kids how to manage money. So if you actually just go to Smithsonian website and you Google John Rockefeller allowance agreement, you will find an actual contract between John Rockefeller and his son. And at that time, I think his son was a teenager. And there is a replica of this document that basically lists all the requirements that his son had to do in order to get allowance. And when he got this allowance, he had to manage it a certain way. He had to keep a ledger of his spending. He had to donate to charity. And then the father and the son would meet every, I don't know if it was every month or every so often. And if the father was happy with how the son was managing his money, he would give him an increase in allowance. So I always say to parents that I teach in my workshops, if John Rockefeller, who was one of the wealthiest men at the time when this contract was produced, was doing this, of course, the rest of us should be doing the same. So passing on that education and knowledge, I think it's even more important than passing on the wealth.
Right. So you mentioned earlier was about saving and storage of the money. What habits should parents take? I guess if we want to start with the parents side of the house, what habits should the parents reflect for their children to mimic? At least
yes. Sorry, with regards to savings?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of my favorite habits, which is actually number one millionaire habit, is called pay yourself first. And it has this confusing name, but all that means is that when we get a certain amount of money, we take a portion of it and we put it aside. And when we put it aside, we're saving it. Eventually it can get invested. But essentially what we're doing by putting it aside is we're paying ourselves before we start using the rest of the money and paying everybody else, like paying for the bills, paying for the clothes, paying for the food. So this money that we've put aside, we're paying ourselves for our future. We're taking care of ourselves. So we want to ideally model that for our children. And as parents, like we should be doing that too. The paycheck comes in, you put a certain amount of money towards your retirement. And then, you can reflect that also with your kids, with their allowance. Like, let's say if you're giving them allowance, or you don't have to give them allowance, but if they get some money for monetary gifts, let's say for their birthday or Christmas or another special occasion, you can ask them to take a portion of that money and save it. And then when there's enough accumulated there, you can invest it. And how much you put aside is entirely up to you. My husband and I, at one point in time, we were putting when I used to work, when I was an employee, we used to put my whole salary, and we would just use that salary at that time we were paying off debt and we're paying off our mortgage. So we were paying ourselves first. After that, we had different plans, but with my kids, I also made sure that they actually save 50% of everything that they get. Now, 50% is just something that we do as a family. It may not be right for you. You may do 10% or 20% or whatever works.
Yeah, because one of the things that I try to tell people, even if you just save $1 and put that off to the side, it actually goes a long way, because you'd be surprised that even $1 a paycheck, you'd be like, okay, I can do this. And then once you get in the groove, you can move it up to $5 and see what that feels like. And I think depending on who you listen to, some people say save until it hurts.
Yeah, so that depends, right? It's a personal preference. And I think that's why personal finance is called personal, because we all need to feel different about it. I don't like the hurt feeling, mainly because I did grow up I lived in government shelters, government housing, I hustled. And I just don't like that feeling of I went through that. I know what it feels like. I never want to forget it because I never want to be ungrateful. But I actually did try that at one point in time when we were budgeting so strict that I remember being in a store one time and I'm looking at and by the way, we have money, we're perfectly fine, but we just get this crazy strict budget. And I was at a store and I wanted to buy vitamins and fish oil for my kids. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, but I'm going to go $5 over. I can't do that. That's my budget. And then I remember coming home and my husband asked me, why didn't you buy the vitamins? And then he just looked at me. He's like, are you serious?
Mhm.
Like, really, are you serious? So, I mean, it's not my thing. And I think that whoever does it, it's okay if it feels good for you. I just don't like that feeling. And I've actually lately started more exploring the abundance mindset, which, again, it doesn't mean that you're frivolous with your money. I'm very responsible. Literally, for us, as soon as the money comes in, we put aside money for retirement. We pay off our credit cards in full. We do all these things, but we want to enjoy our money because I am 44 and I can tell you, life is short, and I don't know how much time I have on this planet, but whatever is left, like I want to enjoy it.
Definitely. And, seeing, even though I met you the first time this year at FinCon, I have to say, like, you don't look 44, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Like, you're
I
so
try to eat
active.
healthy and I try to exercise, so hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Because it was, we had a ball. You needed the energy for this year's FinCon because so many steps and walking around in the city and so forth. So,
Yeah, it's exhausting too because there are so many people. And I mean, and this is another thing too that I just love, like being surrounded by like-minded people that inspire me. And I met so many people like you, Anthony, people that inspire me, people that are on the same page like me, people that think like me. And so I was just like, I wanted to meet as many of them as possible. And really, you have to have, it's not just the energy, as you said, for like walking around and being a tourist, but it takes energy to talk to people, to really get to know them and like genuinely pay attention to what they're saying. And sometimes like I would confuse the two people, or like, it's like just trying to keep everybody's name straight and remember everybody. Yeah. So it definitely takes energy.
but it goes back to the habits that you establish, which is getting used to the, like, almost you're modifying your circle or increasing your circle to people that are going in the same direction that you are. And I think that's a good habit to have, is to be comfortable, to be uncomfortable in a sense, so that you can be comfortable again, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. I don't want to say like, I'm definitely, I'm actually definitely okay with discomfort. I think even now, there are some areas like where I don't feel comfortable. Like, being an entrepreneur, I'm constantly exploring new areas where I don't really know where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I'm still charging ahead. And sometimes I get knocked down and I have to start again. So I feel like in my everyday life, there's definitely areas where there's definitely discomfort because I think that's needed in order to grow.
Yeah. So this brings us up to the second segment, which is talking about the adversities with you. And, you and your husband were able to pay off the house plus $60,000 in debt by the age of 32. So can you kind of explain, like, what was your mindset that kind of got you guys over or through that financial pain?
I think it was more just, I remember when we had this debt, it was $60,000 of debt. Some of it was student loan, some of it was car loan, some of it was consumer debt. And it was just all these different bills coming at the same time. It was like overwhelming energetically. Like I just felt drained. And so, we just wanted to be free from that. And the best way for us at the time, it seemed to like just consolidate all that, like have one payment. It just was easier on our minds and the energy that we spent on like paying all these bills. And then I think, we also realized we were just lucky, actually. We didn't really know much about house hacking, but it just happened that when we bought our house, the house came with a tenant who lived in the basement. So we were house hacking without really knowing that we're house hacking. And we realized that with the tenant's help, we were able to like, help pay off the mortgage faster. So once we started, I think it's that whole thing about, catching momentum. Once you start like doing these things and you do them consistently, you get hooked because it feels good and you see that you're doing something good for your life. So you start even contributing more towards to pay off your debt. You start, doing extra payments on your mortgage because it feels good, because you see the light at the end of that tunnel. And that's what it was for us.
Yeah. So did you learn how to get, really good with money from your parents, or was that something that came along in grade school? Like what kind of got you into this whole money thing?
So I think like with my parents, I learned some things. They were really good at like managing money, like in terms of whatever little that we had. Because at one point we were on welfare, and, it's like you have to make that work. My mom would go to food bank. But my parents never spent more than what they had. So that was a really good thing for me to see. And they were always, especially my mom, she was very good at budgeting and looking for deals and like literally stretching that dollar so that we had something to eat every day. But my parents, because I immigrated from war-torn Bosnia, which used to be part of a communist country called Yugoslavia, and I come from the socialist system, my parents didn't really know anything about investing or credit cards. So that's the stuff I had to learn on my own. So a lot of these things I had to learn on my own. And I guess it was trial and error. Thankfully, with credit cards, for some reason, and I don't really know why, I was very responsible. Again, I feel like it's just luck. Somehow I clued in that I do have to pay that money back. So I didn't borrow more than I could pay back at the time with my part-time job. But I just feel like, I've been learning all these years, and I still learn. There is a large financial literacy community on social media, and I'm always looking at what other people are posting. I'm learning from them. When it comes to investing, I always knew investing was important, and as a teenager, I was very much interested in it, but it did feel overwhelming and intimidating. And I tried investing a little bit in my 20s, and part of my 30s, I had an investment advisor, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I don't think we picked the right investment advisor for us. So it was only like literally, I would say in my late 30s that I started learning about ETFs and index funds and how easy it is to invest in those if you're a long-term investor. So I wish I learned that earlier. But I learned it. It's never too late, right? So I learned it, and then I started investing on my own. I started teaching others how to do it. So I feel like it's been a journey. It's not something that I acquired. I not woke up, but like I left my parents and I knew everything. I didn't. Like it's definitely I've been picking up skills my whole life and trying to get better at it.
Yeah. So one of what was one book that kind of kick that off for the investment side? Because sometimes we can listen to people, but it just doesn't stick. But we sometimes need a resource that could kind of help us get to that next level, because we can listen to all this stuff. Like I love your book because it actually illustrates some of the things that seem complicated, and you break it down to make it so simple. And obviously, back then there weren't like picture books. It just kind of read straight through. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Like that's it. So it's like a dog eat dog world almost. So what was that book for you?
Yeah. So for me, the book, well, I guess the basics of investing, I learned in school more through textbook stuff because I did, I did my Bachelor of Commerce in university, and I had to take some, I guess, not exactly basics of investing, but you kind of pick it up as you go. But it wasn't, I mean, and I'm very, very biased because obviously I have my book and I love my book. But it wasn't broken down like it is in the book, right? It's investing can be very boring and intimidating. And so I kind of had to piece it together for myself. To be perfectly honest, even after graduating from university and getting my CPA, I still wasn't clear on some things with regards to investing. And I read a lot of books, and it's, again, like, as you said, they're just textbooks, like they're just plain text. And what I wanted to do with this book was literally make it as friendly as possible, make people understand that they can learn how to invest and understand the basics of investing. I don't want anybody to be intimidated by it, because as Peter Lynch, one of the famous investors, said, as long as you've completed grade 4 math, you should be able to learn how to invest. So that's why it's a picture book. It's written in a language, or I guess the text is appropriate for 10-year-olds. So it's written in a very, very plain language. It's got a glossary at the beginning of the book. It's very, very user-friendly. So when I was even testing that book with some families, a lot of parents actually told me that not only their children learned a lot, they learned a lot. And they actually thanked me because they finally felt less intimidated by the world of investing. But one specific book that I think made me learn more about investing, especially as a long-term investor, is The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins, right? I have it actually here. That's why I keep turning around. I don't want to mess up the title. Right. Perfect. Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. And that book just really explains it. I think that book was, it was just one of those books that really tells you how you can be a lazy investor. And I feel like this is the book that educated most of us who are financial influencers on Instagram, on social media, because we have all adapted those strategies. And that book essentially was the catalyst for me to fire my financial advisor, because I actually did this free online calculator, and I realized I was going to pay him over $300,000 in fees over the next few years on my portfolio. And he was only getting me 3 or 4% return. So I realized I can do so much better on my own. And essentially, after doing it on my own, I started teaching others. I teach kids, and, just kind of passing on that knowledge to others so that they can learn and they can do it as well.
So this goes back to the original question, which is that, your original statement, which is on your website, that it takes one person to change the generational wealth trajectory of the family. And how just because you did it, you were able to start now changing other people's lives to the point now everybody is winning. It's just so awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and the more of us do it, the more we will talk about it. We will teach our children. We will teach our siblings, our neighbors. And I do believe that, we can spread this knowledge, and, we can help everybody else, become better and wealthier.
Awesome. Now, because you also talked about, as we go on to the third segment, which is the futures, you said that you still learning some things. What skills or habits that you feel will take you to the next level?
I think I'm just, learning more the intricacies of investing. I am a big fan of index funds and ETFs investing, and most of my portfolio is invested in those. I do know a little bit about Bitcoin, and I have a very, very small holding in Bitcoin. I'm not too crazy about other type of crypto, but I do want to even learn more about Bitcoin. I never invest in something that I don't understand. And, I have aging parents who, again, they didn't learn any of this stuff. And I'm trying to help my dad. He actually just recently ended up firing his investment advisor for the same reasons. So I'm just trying to help him out construct his portfolio, which is very different from mine because his needs are very different and he's older. Mine is long-term, goals and whatnot. For him, it's a little bit different. He's already retired. So it's kind of okay, let's structure that portfolio. It can't be just all equity. We need some bonds in there. We need some cashable instruments. And so it's just learning how to do something that will work for him. I'm not an investment advisor and I don't give out investment advice. I do educate people, but I always have a caveat. It's this is just for education, make sure you do your research. But, now as I'm helping my dad figure out where to put his money, I do have to do quite a bit of research and just make sure that I'm leading him in the right direction.
Yeah. And I think not to say it's a burden for the children, but I think it's almost like our duty to kind of help the people that brought us here to excel as well. They send us to school to get this education, but it's almost like as Dave Ramsey would say, the diaper syndrome, where the parents won't listen to the children. And it's like, it's a constant battle, because I deal with that with my mom too. It's like, stop using
Yeah.
checks. Like, it's okay. You can use your credit card.
Yeah, it's almost like they know they need you, but at the same time, like, I feel like maybe they would listen to somebody else over you because you're their child, right? Like, they raised you, they taught you everything you know. So, like, what are you going to teach them, right?
That's true. So, is there anything you want to say before we go on to the final four questions?
No, not really. Well, actually, no, I do want to say something. I do want to say that I truly, truly believe that everyone can become wealthy. I know it's hard. I know this stuff sometimes seems boring, but there are a lot of amazing people out there who are educating on social media about finances, different topics, right? Like, financial industry is huge. Personal finance is a huge area. Find somebody who's reputable that you can trust. Of course, there are some people out there that don't really know what they're talking about, and also find somebody who resonates with you, and that person will make it a little bit more interesting for you to learn. And I just definitely think that we can all benefit from educating ourselves more, and then pass it on. Teach your children, teach others that you care about, and pass that knowledge on.
Nice, man. All right. I feel like I can just talk to you all day, because
yeah, I know this is one of those interesting topics.
yes. All right. So let's go on. You ready for the final four questions? So
I am. Let's do it.
Number one, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth it's really interesting. It's what it means to me. It's not just about money. Wealth to me is having my health, having my family that's healthy, and it's all about those relationships, right? Like, being in a happy, loving marriage, having a great relationship with my kids, having great relationships with my parents, my friends, like having those people around. And additionally, obviously having enough money to live a fulfilling life, to just be comfortable and be able to enjoy that life.
Yeah. Nothing like it.
Yeah.
Number two, what was your worst money mistake?
I actually, my worst money mistake, I feel like I don't know. Okay. So my worst money mistake was probably investing my money with someone else, having that investment advisor. And I hate to say it like this, because there are some investment advisors that are amazing out there. But, going back in hindsight, I think things happen for a reason, and we do the best we can based on the knowledge that we have. So at the time when I started investing with my advisor, I knew that investing was important. I was also very much aware that I was not educated enough to invest on my own. And I was afraid that I was going to lose my money. So I just, chose somebody who I could trust. And it's not that they were trustworthy. It's just that I don't think I was getting enough of the return for the amount of fees that I was paying. And knowing what I know now, after reading that book, The Simple Path to Wealth, and learning more on my own about ETFs and index funds and investing for a while, I'm kind of like, man, I could have been doing this all along since I was a teenager, and I could have been further ahead. So it is a mistake, but at the same time, that's just how life happens. We don't know what we don't know. I think I probably, in hindsight, maybe I made the right decision because I didn't invest on my own. I could have maybe lost all that money. Like, some of that base capital, not some of that, like that base capital was preserved. It's just that it didn't grow to what it should have grown.
Makes sense. That's a whole nother episode, though.
Yes, exactly.
Number 3, what is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
My favorite, I'm gonna go with non-financial book because I feel like this book just, I don't know, speaks to me so much. It's like my favorite book of all times, and I feel like I can apply it in every area of my life. It's called The Atomic Habits by James Clear. Do you have it? I see you turning around.
No, I have Charles
No.
Duhigg's book. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite books, and I absolutely love it because it basically talks about how these small incremental steps lead to big results. So essentially, we can achieve anything as long as we're focused. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be your money. It could be, let's say, your health, your fitness, whatever it is. And you just make these small incremental changes and you keep making them, and every day. And it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, but you're still doing something. And that just makes like a huge difference in the long run.
Awesome. Number 4, what is your favorite dish to make?
Oh, that's a good one. I just love lasagna. I find it so, actually there are a few dishes, but lasagna is like, I guess the carbs in it and the cheese, and it's like so comforting. It's perfect comfort food, you know? It's just, gooey with the cheese. I don't know. I just love making it. I have fun making it, and I have a lot more fun eating it.
I was thinking about, I was like, yeah, I had the best lasagna. It's at a restaurant near me in National Harbor, and it was so delicious. So if you're ever in the DC area, and you go down to National Harbor, check out Bond 54.
Hmm.
Have the best lasagna in my take, in the area. So if you guys know a better lasagna place, please let us know. You can leave a comment on Spotify to actually say like, hey, I actually like this spot better. It's okay. We're not going to charge you. So, well, I have to say that, because of meeting you, I actually got the first signed copy of your book.
Yay.
So excited. And I have to say, everybody, if you haven't already, please make sure you pick up the Piggy Banks to Stocks book. You will not regret it. Even if you say it has kids on it, you can use it too. Even as to teach yourself the basics, even to the extremes. And you can actually listen to Bloomberg Radio. You can even watch CNBC and actually understand what in the world they're talking about. Because I have to say, this book has really helped me out on explaining some things to other people when they ask, well, what is an option and how do you use an option? This book has been really helpful in that area. So thank you so much, Maya, for creating such a book that I can actually break things down to elementary and very easy to digest concepts.
Thank you so much, Anthony. That's actually lovely to hear. I'm really happy to hear that.
Awesome. Now, the very last question of the show, which is, where could people find out more about you?
Yeah, so I do hang out on Instagram quite a bit. My handle is teach.kids.money. I do have a blue check mark near my name. There are a lot of scammers out there, so make sure you follow the right person. And if you get contacted by somebody who's trying to sell you crypto or whatever, that's not me. I also, the book is available on Amazon. It's also available everywhere, pretty much. And I also have Wealthy Kids Investment Club, where I teach basics of investing, and you can find that at wealthykids.club, CLUB, not .com, but .club, wealthykids.club. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Maya, for coming through. And if you haven't already, go ahead on and share this episode out to somebody who is curious on how to build strong financial habits by use of books that actually break things down to very easy to digest and very easy to communicate how to invest. All right, everybody. Y'all be safe. I'm out. Peace.